This has worked. Like the reason why I bring this up, in this, what I want to talk about is doing like cold reach outs. And the reason why I bring this up is that this actually has been effective for the couple of you who have tried this. Um, like kind of like anecdotally, what your like fellow classmates have told me is getting responses from about like 4 out of 10 cold emails that they send out. Very good, which is very good, like response rate. Just to let you know. Um, so how do you go about doing that, right? And if you kind of imagine what would that take from you, one or two a day is what you're talking about. Like maybe and in terms of how you schedule that, uh, may vary. Like so, for some of you, maybe you want to do like two or three in a single day and just put aside like 2 hours to do something like that. For others of you, maybe you do like 30 minute, allocate like 30 minutes or 45 minutes a day, and spend some of that time doing cold emails. Um, a couple things just to note is like I would expect it would take, like I said, like 30 minutes, maybe just in terms of the whole process of like finding the job, finding the person, thinking about doing some research, writing a good email, right? So it is like don't, this isn't worth doing if you just kind of like, you don't want to spam someone, of course. But the point is to be more thoughtful, and you're kind of indicating, through like that time investment, if you really put thought into it, that this isn't something you're sending out 100 different, applications, doing this, right? No one can really do that. So, okay. So why do like cold emails work? They can be sent directly to the hiring manager. The same reason why like Slack can work. People rarely use this. Like I said, like for me, actually, like I've posted. I'm thinking I probably posted positions maybe like 5 or 6 times, or maybe more than that over the years. I've actually never gotten a cold email. I've gotten like LinkedIn messages, but cold emails maybe I've gotten like one or two. When I was an engineer, I got a couple, and even though I wasn't like the hiring manager, I would tell the hiring manager when I got a cold email about a position that we posted. So it's very, the competition, if you do it, isn't as extreme. Um, and then employers know that it takes time, right? Like we said. Uh, this is not a LinkedIn email. Like anecdotally, what we've heard is that like LinkedIn messages have not been successful. Now that may vary. Again, like that may vary based on how good a job you do and the fit. But it seems like actually like this is the better approach, is sending an actual email. So how do you go about doing that? So today, like I just found, I like Googled and found like this software engineering position. So it's like, how do I find the person that is potentially the hiring manager for this? The next thing I do is it's literally just put into Google, LinkedIn, Notion, right? That's the job. And then the position, software engineer data. What I'm looking for is I'm looking just to see like, is there someone in that department, right? And then luckily, like this was the first one I did. And then it brought up this person, Yisi, who says, I'm looking for talented data engineers. Seems like a relevant person, right? Like second link down. Um, then you do want to find the email. So to do that, this is what took me a little while of research. Is like there are different Chrome extensions that can help you find someone's email address once you get to their LinkedIn. So this page has a list of them, demand curve. Okay, they talked about this contact out one, which I guess is free. I haven't used that one. Gem.com, I'm not paying for it, I don't believe. But you can see that like, you sign up for it, and then if you just go to like the LinkedIn and you go to, like, let's go to this person. What you have to do is you'll see this kind of plugin over here to the right. I also tried this Get Prospect one, but you see this Gem plugin. You have to install the Gem like Chrome extension. So you just install the Gem Chrome, right? I've already installed it. You want to sign up for gem.com, and then once I click on, where is it, more? So this is what you have to do. You go to the actual person's page. You'll see the Chrome extension come up here. Click on more, and then click on Save to PDF. All right, that saves their profile. But for whatever reason, once it does that, normal in this case it didn't. Oh, it did actually. It then adds the email addresses of the individual, right? And now you can actually send them an email. You should learn something about them, right? So what I'll typically do, so that's one way to do it. So you just like use one of these extensions, you look for it, hopefully try to find something relevant. Other things that I'll do is if they are like a engineer, which a lot of times they are, I'll put in their name and then I'll just type in like GitHub, right? And right, like I don't know if this is the same person. Like I'd have to look, we'll have to see if does it look like him or whatever. You'll have to do a little bit of sleuthing to make sure it matches. And then oftentimes you'll also that person either you'll find their profile page, right? Like lots of people have like a website or something, or even right here, oftentimes you'll find their email address here. Okay, so like you can do that. You can just Google their name. Sometimes they'll have like a Medium or a blog. You can just put in the person's name followed by blog, and then you can find it. And then if you can't find it, you can always look for another individual at the company whose email you can find. All right, but you can see like right away we were able to find both these individuals' emails by using this gem.com thing. So again, you just download gem.com, install the Chrome extension, click on the individual, click on more, and then click on save to PDF. Once you have their email, again, like you do not, like don't spam them. If you spam them, like meaning you just send a generic, lazy email, you're just going to be annoying someone who you want to hire you, which is not a good idea. So instead, like you need to kind of explain why the top line thing for me that I'm trying to do is explain like why I actually am interested in the position and then why I'm a good fit. All right. Like in that order, essentially. So like I literally just borrowed this from one of your classmates. It was subject line, a cold reach out. For me, I'll oftentimes do something. I might do something like this, like potential data engineering fit. Notice I'm not saying I'm not like being over the top about it. Like I am like the best for you, right? I'm just saying like, hey, this could be a fit. Like, like I'm just getting want them to click, and then, this is like I didn't actually write this to Flatiron School, but I did write a cover letter for Flatiron School, and this is like the type of thing I probably wrote, So certainly it's like the type of thing I communicate in my, like when interviewing with them. So it's just like, hey, like, I love the work you're doing. I'm really interested in the position. And then right away, I'm just saying, like, I'm passionate, right? I've been passionate about education and software development for years. A couple of points, right? So the other thing is, notice, I'm not writing, like, 3 paragraphs, right? These people are, like, key decision makers. You don't want to do that. Like, succinct it actually takes more time, right? Like, to write a shorter letter than a longer one. So it's like you want to keep it to the point. Right? Here's some things I wanted to highlight. I worked in education, or like in undergrad or in law school, right? I developed like various education organizations. Here's what we did. I'm passionate about kind of like best practices in engineering. I was on the refactoring team of a million line code base and like gave talks on it. And then I'm currently reading books. Like this is fine to have. I tried to find a separate, like a past student. He just like listed like basically his interests and then the books that he was reading that were really relevant to the position, and he got an interview. And like this is why like reading books on a subject is a great way to break into the field, because it is what those people who are experts and the practitioners, what they're doing is reading the same books. So if those things overlap, that's great. And when you get into a niche field, there are only like 30 books, on the topic, right? Like I was passionate about, I still am, but was really passionate about like international development. Like if you name the 3 books on international development, like every practitioner has read them, right? And like not most of humanity has. So it just shows that you are, you're kind of in that club is basically what you're showing. And then I just said, reiterate, like I've been, and this is something like in a recent, conversation with an employer, like I just said something like that. I was like, I really like have been a fan of like your organization, since I learned about it. I thought it was really interesting. And then I'm showing like, I know what you guys are about, right? You all are about like, you talk about community all the time. workforce mobilization, pedagogy, right? Like what you're showing is like this isn't like some random email. Like I kind of have carefully considered, I'm smart enough to figure out what is important to you guys, and that's also what's important to me. All right. So it's like what motivates you is what motivates me. Like that's basically what I'm trying to communicate. And then just say like, I'm attaching my resume. Let me know if you would like any additional contacts. So it's like a professional while also showing, right? It's not like there's no exclamation points here, right? Like it's not over the top excited, but it's professional and it's still enthusiastic, I would say, even though it's, right, I'm doing that with just showing the level of work I've done. And then other things is like you may not hear back still, right? Like this could take 40 minutes to like put together from beginning to end, and obviously you're still only going to hear back 4 out of 10 of them, maybe. Even maybe it'll be like 2 out of 10, for some of you, which is fine too. But like I think that's better than just mindlessly applying lots of times. And then if you don't hear back, you can follow up 6-8 weeks, especially if you still see the position. Like again, it just shows like that you're interested in it, and certainly I know of cases like where like personally, like some of the people at Flatiron School that I worked with did that, and that's how they got hired. They're like the timing might just be better. And then you can try other individuals at the company. Again, like you probably don't want to send it to like even like 5 people, right? There's probably too many, but maybe 2 or 3. So you can just wait a day, send it, wait a couple days, send it to somebody else. And like lots of times what it could just be is like that one person is busy or just that's not the way they operate really, or they might not be the hiring manager. And so sending it to 2 or 3 people is a good idea. You've already done the research. You can send a similar email, and then you can just look at other places that these people are located. Like at Flatiron School, like I did a good interview. They indicated that they were like basically gonna like hire me or at least go to the next round of the interview, and then I didn't hear from them for weeks. So I like showed up at their was it, like their project fair, the student, and just like said, it was like, yeah, I want to check this out. Like, this is really cool what you guys are doing, and then, if you guys are still hiring for the position, like, but it was just a way to remind them, and see what was going on a little bit. And, it was polite, like it was fine. So you can just also look at like other events or like Slack channels, if they're giving like a webinar, things like that, right? So you can just indicate. It's another way of connecting with that person, in a more like high touch scenario. And like if you just think about your own organization, probably every organization has, I don't know, like 30% of the employees, something like that, came from a direct contact, not from a random LinkedIn application, right? Like at least that's been my experience. So you can certainly kind of get in the door. But like I said, this is why I advocate for like one of the key things maybe at this stage is like identifying, and like through career coaching we can help you with this, but like identifying your niche, right? Like that's why I keep saying that, because how do you get to the point where like you've read the same books as other people, you're able to communicate, like you've done, kind of the previous work in the same exact field. Like that type of stuff, you can't do that for every component, but you can do that for a few, right? So, this I wrote this lesson recently because I do think this is a great way to get leads at companies. Any questions about this? This is probably like when I do like my job search, this will be my approach. Like maybe if I send some like cold LinkedIn applications, I'm not going to be sending 100. I'll send like the 5-10 I'm interested in, and then reach out to those people. Like that's, whether it's Slack or through this. Cool. And it takes thoughtfulness. Like I don't know, like we've having taught this, like some people, I see them just spend their time just like mindlessly clicking the apply button, and I don't know why they're like, I've told one person, I'm like, that's not a that's not a good use of your time. You should just like play chess or video games or do something else. He's like, well, I would just find it relaxing. So if you find it relaxing and this is like your hobby, okay, but otherwise just don't do that. It's not a good use of your, like you can do like, you can, if it's not working with your funnel at a certain point, we can experiment with it, do 20 at a time, but at a certain point for a lot of you, it may not be the best use of your time. All right. So that is one of the reasons why we use Hunter, is to see if that is a good use of your time or not. Okay, next thing. We can review just quickly to review the Big O stuff. Let's just skip to the end here. So again, if you're trying to, you say you write the operation, right? And then we do something like this. For each element, right? For element in elements, is the target in elements? And the question is, okay, what is the Big O, right? Or what is the time complexity of this operation? So you should be thinking basically each loop, right? This is we have one loop here. So we're going through how many operations? We're going through this print statement n times, right? Where n is the number of elements. And then what about this? So you have to think about, what does this take? This is another kind of, for each element, ask the question, is this value in the elements? So this is again going one by one through the elements. That also takes n, right? So this is a nested loop essentially. Sorry. So this is a nested loop. So the cost of this is n squared. Man. N squared. So that's and like we said, n squared is bad. N squared, like, it's fine to start off with. It's fine if they don't care about time complexity, but if they do, then n squared is costly. Things that are not costly is like n is fine, right? N log n is typically fine, and this is how long it takes to, if you have a list of elements, right? Like 5, 2, 3, 1. And then you do sorted, the cost of this is n log n. We can kind of go into why it is that later on, but it's n times by the log of n, which is less than n squared. Okay, it's between n and n squared, but it's a lot less than n squared. So this is sorting is typically fine, is the point. Okay, you can sort up front. That's okay. And then log of n is exceptional. Like that's better than n. Just to show you, again, I remember. Let me just. So I was Googling this before class, just to show you and try to explain what log of n is. So if we do log 10, so this is log base. We'll just do log base 10. So what does that mean from like high school algebra? Basically what you're doing, if you think about the exponent, right? Like 10 raised to the third power, right? This is the base, 10 is the base, and 3 is the exponent, okay? And so 10 raised to the third is 1,000, which is the same thing as 10 times by 10 times by 10, right? Log base 10, if you say, what is log base 10 of 1,000? Anyone know? This is 3. Okay, so basically what you're asking is, given this value, right, the end result, and the base value, what is the exponent that gets you there? All right? So another way of thinking about this, the way I kind of always conceptually think about this, is if you have a value, 1,000, 3, right? 3 is the number of times that you have to press divide by, that you have to divide by the base to get back to 1. All right, so 1,000 divided by 10 is 100. 100 divided by 10 is 10. 10 divided by 10 is 1. So we have to, if you imagine this was a calculator, I have to press divide by 10 on the keyboard, on the calculator, 3 times to get back to 1. Okay? Now, why does this come up? It comes up in programming lots of times because of binary search. What is binary search? It's just the idea that, let's say we have a sorted list of values. Think of like a phone book. B, C, this could be like each person's name, F. And you're saying like, okay, I just want to find that individual through this list. Or like C, does it exist or not, right? Let's say we're looking for like cat, the word cat. Does the word cat exist or not? Once you sort the list, think about what you can do to look for it. You could go through every single element in the list. But think about a phone book. Like if we did a phone book and we went through every single, guy's name in the phone book, no one would do that, right? That would be, idiotic. What would you do instead? You'd choose someplace in the middle and see, okay, let's split, turn to the middle page of the phone book, look at the letter D, and then say, okay, we have to go less than the letter D. So I'm going to choose the first half. So now I've just reduced what I'm working with. It started with 6 elements, and you're going to go down to 3, right? And then from 3 elements, let's say if it's not, maybe you'll choose, the middle again, A, B, it's not there. So now you're choose the other half, right? And finally get down to cat, okay? So what you're doing basically is you're cutting, here we divided by 10, how many times? But here what we're doing is we're dividing by 2. Start with 6, get down to 3, divide by 2 again until eventually get down to 1. All right? This is the same thing as what we were talking about up here. This is not log base, this is log base 2 of n, effectively. All right? If we're, instead of dividing by 10, if we're dividing by 2, how many times does it take until we find our answer? All right? So that's why this comes up. It's also why it comes up in sorting. We can, if you Google merge sort, you'll see that's effectively, this is very close to the approach of what they're doing in sorting. In merge sort, they're decomposing the list, and then they basically kind of sort each of these compositions, each of these components. And so the end result isn't log of n, but rather it's n log of n, which is, for sorting, it's quite good. It's basically as good as we can do, where it takes more than n steps, but not much more. Okay, n times by log of n, because n is n, and then log of n is a small number relative to n, right? So and just to kind of hammer it home, right? If we had 8 elements of here, and we divided by 2 for each step, how many steps would it take? It would only take us 3 steps, right? Because 2 times by 2 times by 2, right, is 8. Okay, so from 8 steps, you get from 8 elements, you can get down to, you can search through the whole list in just 3 steps, right? It's super powerful. Cool. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about is nested. Do I have it up here? Oh man, give me 1 second. Let me see if I have my notes. No, I don't. Okay, so we can walk through this. So this is the inefficient way of sorting, which is fine, to start with. But I more go through it because it's really about, remember, brute force. And brute force, we've seen it kind of with a single loop, but what about with a nested loop? Okay, so one inefficient way, right? This is an inefficient way of sorting a list is to use this n-squared technique, which again, fine if we do not care about time complexity. Bad if we do. So how do we do this? Well, here's my list of values, okay? And basically what we're going to do, I'll just explain the procedure first before we get to the code. So let's just focus on the procedure for a second. What we're going to do is we're going to start with this first value, 13, okay? So start here, and we're going to say, basically the question is, what element belongs here? Okay, we'll deal with the rest of them later. but we would just want to say like what element belongs here, belongs in this slot, okay? So what we'll do is we'll say like, okay, we're going to go through the remaining values, and for each of the remaining values, we're going to see like, is 4 greater or less than 13? 4 is less than 13, so what we'll do is we'll swap 4 with 13. So let's just do that. So we'll start here, and then the next step will be 4 and 13. So I just swapped these two, okay? Now I'll go to the next value, and we get to 9. Is 9 less than what's here? 4. No. Then we go to the next one. 5. Is 5 less than what's here? No. Then we go to the next one. 3 is less, right? So now we swap again. So we swap 3 with 4. Is 16 less? No. Is 12 less? No. Now we go to the next index, okay? So what happens here is 3 is in the right spot, right? But the rest of the array, the rest of the list is currently unsorted. So we just move up to this index, and we go through the same procedure. Is 9 less than 13? It is. So the next step, we'll just do this relatively quickly, is to put the 9 here. Okay, and we'll swap 9 and 13. Is 5 less than 9? It is. So we swap 5 and 9. Is 4 less than 5? It is, right? So we swap 4 and 5. Get to the end of the list. Is 16 less than 4? No. Is 12 less than 4? No. Right? So now what you want to think about is we started with none of the list is sorted. Then we're just trying to get the first element correct. That's what these steps are about, swapping until we get the first element correct. Then we go to the next index. This part of this list is sorted. The rest is not sorted. Then we just keep doing that swap procedure, going through all the remaining elements. And now by the end, these two are sorted. The rest is unsorted. So you can imagine what goes next is we do the same thing for this slot, right? Is 9 less? Is 5? Yes, it is. Do the swap. Is 5 less than 9? Yes, it is. Do the swap again, right? And now all of a sudden we have 3 elements that are sorted. So again, you can see this is not like efficient, but this works fine. So that's what we're doing here. Is this, we go through all the indices, right? And that's basically let me kind of show you. That's basically for each one, start with just the first slot, getting this first slot sorted. And then what do? We want to go through, compare this first slot, this current index, versus all the remaining ones. So for the remaining ones, we say we start not at 0, right, from 0 to the length of the array, but rather we start at value 1, right, and go through the remaining elements. Okay, so for the first slot, we start at 1, right, and then go through each of the values from 1 to the end, right, from current index to the length of the array, and then basically we ask that question, is the remaining index, like 4, less than my current index, 13? If it is, all right, so I'll get that value, and then basically here I'm just performing the swap, saying the spot that has the current index, right, which is this guy, set that equal to the value at the remaining index, which is 4, okay? And then swap this operation here just puts the 13 where the 4 was, right? Set that slot of where that new index was and put it at the current value, this current value, okay? And then just keep going through, right? We go through all of them, performing the swaps where needed. That gets this value sorted, and then once this is done, then we move on to the next one. So this inner loop is just about going through all the unsorted parts of the array, and the outer loop is about kind of handling each slot, right? Sorting each slot one by one by one, right? That's basically it. I just wanted to go through that kind of procedure. If you want to look through this, I'll post some videos. I'm a big fan of like the CS50. You can just Google. You can see I did this before class. Selection sort.
We start.
And that's kind of what he's showing you, is that, this part of the array starts off sorted. You put it in the right spot. We have one we know is there, and then he got this part of the array until he got this part of the array sorted. Two, the remaining part is still unsorted. Okay, so if you want to watch this, they're basically performing the same procedure that we are. The reason why we go through this isn't because I think selection sort is that important or that tricky to learn, but because I think implementing work with nested loops, so many things can go wrong, right? So it's rather we go through that concrete practice now, iron out all our mistakes, rather than in an interview, okay? So a lot of this class, I'll deploy effectively this whole section, but again, it's really just about like, damn, I got, the part about brute force isn't, the hard part is not doing brute force, but implementing it correctly. And it's nerve-wracking to do that in an interview for the first time. Okay, so we can iron that out now.